Hi, my name is Rich Hillston. I'm a general surgeon, and thank you for coming to my channel. This channel, Knife Skills, focuses on healthcare and on decision making. I'm absolutely obsessed with how to make the best decisions, and that's inspired my cognitive bias series. A little while ago, I've posted two other videos, one on confirmation bias and another on the Dunning-Kruger effect. So go ahead and check those out. But today, we are talking about survivor bias. So what is survivor bias? Well, in a nutshell, it's a tendency to look at the individuals or events that you're interested in, so in a lot of cases, survival, and find what's common in that group and attribute those commonalities to that outcome. But what it fails to do is look at all of the other people or events that didn't happen or didn't succeed or didn't go detected and failed to look at what was going on in that population. Probably the best explanation from it comes from the example in World War II. And whenever you read about survivor bias, you're going to find this picture of a bomber with red marks indicating where the bullet holes were. Anthony Wild was a mathematician during World War II and was challenged with the task of trying to improve the survivorship of bombers coming back from missions. When people were looking at the damage on these aircraft, they were tempted to reinforce the areas where the bullet holes were. But what Anthony Wild realized, it wasn't the bombers that came back that was important. In fact, it was the bombers that didn't come back. And it was more important to look at where the damage wasn't. Because if those bombers took damage in those areas, they weren't going to make it back. So what did he do? He recommended reinforcing the engine compartments and the cockpits. What he insightfully realized is what you didn't see that mattered. It was the things that prevented the survivor from coming back, which was more important than the characteristics of the survivors. One of my favorite books of all time is a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And really the thesis of his book is that ordinary people with extraordinary circumstances are what leads to becoming an outlier. And in fact, in that book, the famous 10,000 hour practice rule that a lot of people think about and quote, and even in my field of general surgery is constantly quoted. And the idea was that the people who had that special 10,000 hours or achieved that 10,000 hours before other people were the ones that were successful. But the problem with the book like Outliers is it fails to look at the people who weren't successful. It fails to find the characteristics that weren't present. Because if you look at the characteristics that are present in the population that you're interested in, you're missing the point. When we talk about business and we talk about personal decision making, luck plays a massive role. This element of chance is enormous. A classic trope in the self-improvement world of YouTube is the idea that you work hard, strive hard, you're going to achieve. And they can say, look at me, look what I've accomplished. Or they can find specific examples of successful people and say, this is the characteristics that they had that made them great. But the fact of the matter is, those characteristics are often present in the failures as well. What's sometimes interesting to look at is what's missing. What are the opportunities that they had that maybe other people didn't? Now that we're in the COVID-19 era, survivor bias has some really interesting things. First of all, it has an implication on us determining how deadly this disease is. We've learned as the time has gone on, and we've been in this pandemic for a few months now, that a large number of people are asymptomatic. They have almost no complaints. And many of those people go untested. So as a result, the only people that we're seeing are the ones that are sick enough, that are feeling unwell enough to present to hospital or present to doctors, present with a concern. And as a result, it's the sickest people that we're detecting. And that's giving us a much higher death rate than what we believe is actually the case. And in fact, right now, if you were to look online at this very moment, you'd see that of closed cases, the probability of death of COVID-19 is 15%. But we all intuitively know that that's actually an overestimation of what's happening. But this survivor bias has an even bigger implication if you want to think about it from a population or public health point of view. Because only the people who are coming to the attention of doctors are being tested, then communities where there are limited resources are going to show even a smaller rate of the virus. And so it's not so much the number of cases that are found in a particular country or community that matters. It's actually more important the number of tests relative to the number of cases. And that gives us a much better sense as to what the population effect of this disease is. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about with survivor bias is that there's going to be survivor bias in how we analyze what we've done to impact COVID-19. As we all know, social distancing has become the buzzword of 2020, along with flattening the curve. You see, what we're going to end up finding is people will say that our social distancing efforts have made a difference in the spread of the virus. And the fact that the outbreak wasn't as bad as we expected was because of the social distancing measures. Once again, we're looking at the survivors. We're looking at the successes and finding that association. The question really needs to lie is what was the factors that made the difference in the countries and the populations that had big outbreaks? And I'm not here to speculate too much, but population density and certain cultural norms, I suspect, have a massive impact. So again, looking retrospectively without some sort of obvious control will lead us to false conclusions when we talk about survivor bias. Thanks for listening. My name is Dr. Hilston. This is Knife Skills. Check out the other videos that I've done on cognitive biases. We can all work harder to become better thinkers.